just for somebody that has the immune system reflex
Mm-hmm.
behind the SCM,
Uh-huh.
the outer edge of the mastoid.
Yes.
If that's only one-sided, Abby, would you? This particular person now has it just on the left side. Now she does have across the lower back as well, but she has it on the left side and difficulty turning her head to the left.
Okay.
Would you say that's more structural, or is it,
It could be a number of different options. So, okay, so yeah, I mean, generally speaking, immunity should, nobody says, you can say I've been attacked by from the left side only, kind of thing. But generally speaking, you're expected to be on both sides, but it's possible that people have certain weaknesses. So a reflex will show more on one side than the other. So let me regress for a second. So there's a big argument, about should adrenals show both sides and should it be treated both sides? My opinion is supposedly it should show both sides below kidney 16 because no one comes out, both kidneys should be affected. The adrenal is one system. But it's possible that only one side, that the fascia is such that it got affected more strongly and it shows, and the other side may show in 3 years. You don't know. But in terms of treating, I think it's possible that it shows in one side, even though by dogma it should show both sides in a perfect situation. It should show both sides. But because people, you don't know at what stage you caught them. You didn't catch them necessarily at the absolute final end of the thing. It's still progressing. So it may show just one side. But I would treat both sides regardless, because now we're still talking about adrenal. Okay, just because the adrenal only shows one side doesn't mean that the other kidney, that the other adrenal gland is not affected. You should still strengthen it. Okay, so because you don't know what's going on, so you can talk about it like as taking insurance if you want, or you can say I'm doing what's even though I can't see it, it must be there because it can't be that one adrenal is weak. Now, I'll give you another example where that's just for the sake of it. Left kidney line versus right kidney line on the chest. Okay, so if it's only left, by dogma, it's supposed to be cardiac, but that's not necessarily true. If they have no other cardiac signs, you can't make that assumption. It's possible that it's actually a lung issue that's not showing yet on the right side. So the bronchies should show both sides along the sternum. Okay? But sometimes, and now it's possible that the reason why the left side shows more clearly is because there's a cardiac history in the family, therefore the left side is weaker. So you have to be careful about making assumptions about one-sided, now the one that's fairly clear is when the liver shows under the ribs on the right side versus the left side, because there's only 1 in 3 million people that have the liver on the left side. It's very rare. So it's not common. You can assume that if it's the right side under the ribs, it is truly their liver. Okay. But everything else, you kind of when it's supposed to be both sides, and only one side shows, you kind of have to take into possibility that it's as if it's both sides, but one side is more serious or one side is more, so like you say, she has tension in the lower back that may have predisposed the left side of the neck. Now, it's also possible that what you're feeling is not a gland at all, even though it's the right location, etc., but that what you're feeling is the result of some sort of cervical shift that then affects the glands as well. So you feeling it like as if it's immune, but maybe it truly is purely structural. So again, what I would say is take insurance. Okay, so assume it's both. Can't hurt. It's one bloody needle. You know,
Yeah.
it's not the end of the world. So I would say fix, so, and I would test both options. Fix the cervicals, meaning look at, say, Sanjo 8, same side. See if it, you know, and also check if there's anything closer to the cervicals rather than just in the immune. Then if you're saying lower back, where in the lower back is the tension on the left side?
Well, it was, to me, it sounded like it was in the area of, the typical immune, like wide, below
So
the iliac crest.
level of L5, but the whole length of the PSIS of the
Yeah,
iliac
like
crest?
under the iliac crest,
Under, wait, no, under, um,
is that
okay.
not immune?
No, it is,
Our area.
if you go totally under, no, if under is, it's just that I'm starting to think that it could be a sacroiliac issue also. But so, okay, so you're thinking it is immune because it shows, and that shows left side also only.
No, both.
Okay, so across the iliac crest shows both sides. Okay, so what you've shown here is basically, yes, you've shown that the reflex is in both sides, but but the neck, for whatever reason, is only showing left side now. So what you do is you see if the immune point resolves it totally. But if you're still thinking, gee, I, because for some reason you are thinking it is structural, there's something that pulls you towards thinking it's structural.
It
Okay?
was just the way she meant about turning the head was a problem.
Okay, so she could have a neck issue
Yeah.
besides the gland issue. So I would do both. So I would do that, so again, this is why I tell people, don't be too fast to needle. Check everything you want to check first. So see what the immune point does and how much better she can turn her neck, how the reflexes resolve, how the back pain is, etc. Then just check, pretend you did not find the immune for a second, and just treat it as if, oh, she has a problem turning her neck, which will be more like Sanjo 8. Okay, so, or possibly spleen 3, because there may be a congestion around the scalenes. Okay,
Stomach 13, is it?
stomach 11, 12. So then you use spleen 3, inner yin, lung 8, heart 3 to resolve the brachial
She
plexus
didn't.
congestion.
Yeah, she didn't actually have any
Nothing there.
tenderness.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Okay.
checked.
So
Yeah, I checked the
okay. So
scalenes kind of area.
okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So yeah. So that's what I'm saying. You just keep trying to, and then check. And the upper thoracics as well, because
Yeah,
they
she
can
was very,
fall
she was
often.
very tight across the upper thoracics and GB21 area.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you start releasing that with, say, inner yin. If it's between the shoulder blades, you can use Goblet 29 in front of the trochanter. Often releases the rhomboids from the front. That's one of your better choices. So yeah, it's possibly immune, and it's possible that if it's immune and she has all this tightness in the upper thoracics, maybe it's a lung issue. Maybe there's some history of lung issues or something like that. So possibly lung 5. So start to expand your search, both in terms of structural and in terms of organic issues. Test them and eliminate them. Say, okay, that didn't do anything. That didn't do anything. Oh, but this did. So so just because, and even if the immune point works, I usually don't stop there. I just search for what else do I think it's possible this person might have. And I don't go berserk, because you can't test for everything, but you can, at least from the medical history, what's appropriate, what's conceivably, what might this person have due to the medical history. And I check them all, and then it gives me an evaluation. Oh, this one really seems to solve a lot of issues, both in terms of reflexes and in terms of their actual pain. The immune point, I'll say, only resolves this. Well, it's probably not the core issue, but it's something I should add. So you just keep playing with these things, and so you kind of prioritize your treatment and you say, this idea, whatever, that it's structural, this idea that it's a lung issue seems to resolve everything, and maybe only it's 80%, and then the immune point gives you the extra 20 that you need or whatever, but it really addresses lots of things. Whereas something else, structural or whatever, doesn't seem to quite do it. Okay, so you just, so it doesn't mean you don't use the immune, but you, in your mind, oh, I think her lungs are first and foremost. And that's the weak lung is what caused the weak immunity. As opposed to maybe the other way around. It's, it's all splitting hairs in a way, but it's just, you keep trying different things. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be one.
She didn't have a lot actually on the abdomen, mainly along the rin line, 12, 15 and 17. She had a little bit like each side, like the kidney line, but lowish, kind of more.
Okay.
And that was about it. And her main complaint was the neck, the neck.
And the iliac crest.
Yeah.
Okay. So
she didn't actually complain about the back. I just asked her about the back,
right,
because of the
yes. So let me ask you this: is she an anxious person, depressed person, something like that?
No, not depressed. Maybe under a little bit of stress at the moment with her job, I think. All this, she's in the restaurant business.
The non-existent restaurant business.
Yeah. Yeah, the main thing in her, actually, she forgot her form for me. So, but the main thing,
so you don't really know. Okay.
Yeah, but the main I did was asking her though, and she said the main thing was cancers actually in the family and cardiac.
Okay, all right. So, so this gives you some things to work with. By the way, I never trust anything that they say that they didn't write. And the reason why is because people, when they write these and they're at home, they will tend to remember things that when they're in conversation, they will try and, it's not that they're trying to cheat, it's just by nature. When it's in a conversation, it doesn't come up the same way. Yeah. So I prefer to see it in written form that they wrote separately. But okay. So first of all, she does have a cardiac history, which predisposes her to a left side, especially in the upper body. Okay. So it suggests it may be, now what's her main complaint is the neck, I assume.
Yeah.
Okay. So I would look at treating her as a cardiac possibility. REN4, check UB60, etc.
Yeah, checked REN 60 actually, and she didn't have any, but she had pressure pain on liver 2.
He does have, which side? Both sides?
Both, yeah.
Okay. So it kind of suggests to you that you should treat liver 4, liver 8. Now, liver 8 is a very good point for releasing the neck anyway. The other, so I mean, and also don't forget that wood is mother of fire. So therefore, in cardiac situations, it is worth checking what's happening with the liver. And also in terms of, and not just in terms of, so people say, oh, well, that's a very cute 5-element, blah, 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 mother, daughter, whatever. But if you think about it, the liver in the Western medicine as well holds a lot of the blood. So it has a huge effect on circulation. And the heart is what's supposed to push that circulation through that spongy liver phenomenon. Okay, so they are closely related. Even even without any 5-element sort of, understanding, you can see that very often you do need to treat the liver in order to treat the heart, because it's the place that's holding the most blood in the body, and the heart is the thing that tries to pump the blood through. Okay, so definitely look at cardiac, definitely look at treating the liver. The thing is, she has reflexes that appear to be emotional. Now, the REN12, you said, which is not necessarily emotional, is definitely released by immune points for most people. So you back to immune, but RENs 15 and REN 17 are tend to be emotional reflexes, and therefore, that's a spleen pericardium.
Yeah.
And the spleen pericardium is also what you'd want to use for cardiac.
Yeah.
Okay, so you kind of along the same lines. It's kind of funny how people tend to come, everything tends to sort of fit into a certain amount of boxes. They are not going to suddenly jump and become a totally different box. All the boxes will tend to kind of resonate with each other. Of course, there are some that don't. So I would look into, originally we thought, okay, spleen 3 because, of the neck, but it may be that you're not feeling it or whatever. But so I would start looking at spleen pericardium, like say spleen 3 plus pericardium is most likely, unless she has low blood pressure or something like that, then it's spleen 6, spleen 9 plus pericardium, plus the liver metal waters, the liver 4, liver 8, because it's there, plus REN 4, plus immune, plus Sanjiao 8. Sanjiao 8 is important not just to release the neck. Sanjiao 8 is also important because the character Jiao, which is a burner, it's a burner because it's like you put a bird in the oven, and the character has a bird in it on the fire. Okay, so it's very clear that the bird is going to be, so Jiao also means anxious. Okay? Because if you were the bird in the oven, you would be anxious. So the Sanjiao channel is both the lymph, because the immune point is really on the Sanjiao channel. Okay, we say it's large intestine 10, 11, but it's really on the edge of the bone, so it's really much more Sanjiao. The Sanjiao channel is the lymphatic channel, and it's also the autonomic nervous system channel.
Yeah, she actually had a tumor on the breast some time back, but it was benign.
Okay, but there is cancer in the
There is a lot of cancer in
a family, not in her.
In
Okay.
family. Yeah.
Okay, so the liver 2 business, although it's both sides, might be a sign of that there is like accumulated toxicity or inability of the liver to resolve things. It might be a sign of that. You could still do, you want to do inner yin, so you can change it to liver 9, which is a cancer point, but also releases the upper body.
Liver 9, is it? Liver 9 releases?
Liver 9 or yin again. Kind of one is on the liver channel, one is on the kidney channel, but same level. Okay, so, and that's like your main point for breast. If there's breast issues, on the back, it's more just 11 would be your main point for breast.
Yeah, I did. I thought the liver 8. I was thinking for cysts and.
Right, because you can, but you can do not both. You can do, it's okay. You can do liver 4 and liver 8, plus liver 9 or yin or yin. And if you feel like, oh, too much on the liver channel, just go to the kidney channel. Fine, no argument, no problem there. But even if you did liver 9, actual liver 9, it's 3 points in the liver channel, but liver 9 is not, doesn't have a function or a name. It's not one of the 5 element points. It's not a low point. It's not a source UN point. It's none of those kinds of things. It's not a Shiklat point. So liver 9 is not interfering. Okay, liver 4 and liver 8 are synergistic. Metal and water are synergistic, so you're okay there. So if you want to add liver 9 on top of it, you can. If you feel like, maybe I should do it on the kidney channel, fine, no problem. It's really okay either way.
Okay. And am I right in saying spleen 9 releases the gallbladder 21 area?
Okay, spleen 9 releases gallbladder 21 area, but it's specific to gallbladder 21.
Yeah.
Okay? In other words, if they have the whole trapezius,
yeah,
that's not a spleen 9 indication. Spleen 9 is like bang, like it doesn't have to be the width of your finger. It can be wider, but it's not like the whole muscle. The whole muscle is an inner yin function, not spleen 9. Spleen 9 is particular to gallbladder 21.
Okay.
It's part of the whole area.
Okay.
So not for the whole trapezius. The whole trapezius is much more inner yin.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. Yeah. Perfect.
All right.
Thank you.
Can,
Well, actually,
can, oh,
go
go
on.
ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go
Go
on.
ahead. Can you, within the context of this conversation, separate out specifically your thoughts on basilar artery?
Oh, basal artery as opposed to, yeah. Okay, so basal artery is what, it is when you have congestion in the cervicals going into the occiput, which leads to a lack of oxygenation in the brain. Okay, and that treatment, originally that treatment was liver aid. So you'll feel in the cervicals, that's not the immune, which is more lateral, but really on the cervicals, on the vertebrae themselves. And that treatment originally was liver 8, kidney 10, and Sanjiao 8, all on the side of the problem. And on the back, it was Ihikon, UB60, UB58, UB40. Now, I tend to change that quite a bit because on the front, I don't find that kidney 10 does the best job. I find that usually either kidney 9, possibly kidney 7 will do a better job than kidney 10, generally. The liver 8, depending, it is a good point, but I often will substitute it with liver 9 or inner yin. Okay, and in Mary Jo's case, I'm suggesting you can do both because she actually has liver 2 pressure pain, so you can't really let go of the liver 8. And the Sanja 8 stays. Occasionally, if someone has a rapid pulse, Sanja 5 will do a better job, occasionally. By the way, Ren 12 can also conceivably help. On the back with the Ihikon, I have a bunch of substitutes, personal substitutes for Ihikon. The only one that doesn't change is the He, the UB58. That's your main one, and that's the one that I test against. I press UB58 and make sure that things changed. UB60 and UB40, which is really not UB40, it's really more like UB39. Okay, and actually I take it even high, not only lateral towards, then take it at UB39, I actually take it above UB39, as some people would call UB38. So I take it on the lateral edge of the triangular fossa behind the knee, and I needle it towards the fossa. I needle it medially. But instead of the so-called UB40 or whatever you call that at the knee, I actually prefer UB36 often. Okay, and instead of UB60, there are times when I will use and UB60 is supposed to be needled upwards. Instead of UB60, I will often substitute with gallbladder 39 needled upwards. Okay, so you now have Ihikon if you're using UB60. You can have Ihijong because it's Xuanzhong is the name for gallbladder 39. Okay, so instead of Kunlun, it's Ihijong. And if I'm using UB36, it's instead of E, it becomes Chen Ikun or whatever. So there's just a bunch of different possibilities on this combination of Ikon of substitutions for me.
So that is to treat.
That's to treat neck and head injuries. That's to treat more the cervicals. Then if you're saying that it's more lateral.
Yeah.
Okay. So at one point I actually gave you, I did a little PowerPoint thing in one of these sessions where I showed you that the whole lateral side of the lower leg affects the neck. From maybe not quite UB40, but certainly from I think it's UB55, that's Stutz and below or whatever. From UB55 all the way to UB60, from the center more lateral towards the gallbladder line, all of that area is what the tongue people call correct tendons, even though they have specific points for correct tendons, which are actually on the Achilles tendon. Okay, like level with kidney 3 and level with kidney 7. These are correct tendons. And they reach the neck. But it's that whole area all the way up, the gastrocnemius, that affects the neck. Because the gastrocnemius basically dictates the whole posture. How your gastrocnemius is, and you can see it like with women who wear high heels, for example. They change the gastrocnemius, and they change the whole posture. And, you know, the knee is a slightly separate issue, because the knee is what gives you power to push upwards. Okay, so that whole area from UB60 all the way up to UB55, and I tend to find that it's more effective slightly more lateral than the midline, is an area that affects the neck and the head.
Okay.
And that's why, you know, with econ, you know, 58 is the most important, because it is in the center, it is at the base of the gastrocnemius, so it's going to have more power. But the other ones can change, in my opinion. Okay, and by the way, the one that's just below UB39, like, so you can call it UB55, but more lateral. You can call it almost like behind gallbladder 34, is a very good point for low back pain and for this, you know, iliac crest situation that you're describing. So I might decide that in her case, instead of doing econ, it will become, you know, UB55, UB58, no, yeah, 58 and 6. So I may change. The only one that stays is 58.
It's okay.
Camille, did that answer the question?
That was fantastic, Avi. Actually, I'm glad I asked that question, because your take on it is so completely different than the book. So that's my pearl of today's class.
Okay, good. You've got a pearl. Let's see if we can get some diamonds.
Oh, well, you're always my diamond, Avi.
Oh. All right.
Anyway, no, that was fantastic. That,
you know, the
was
book
really helpful, because I do see a lot of that, and yeah, that's hugely helpful.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the book comes with, you know, people come up with a theory, and then they come up with a certain dogma, and it often works for them, and that's why they come up with it. But, you know, then there's, you know, then each one of us is going to see a whole bunch of different options, and we can't always produce what someone else produces. You know, so you start developing a different, you kind of go, oh, you know, this point never seems to do anything for me. So you go, well, but how come it's supposed to be so good? And then you start modifying, and you go, okay, maybe this is it. You know, and then you just develop your own resonance, or your own understanding of where this comes from. So I think that general idea of econ is still there. It's just that you can substitute, you really can substitute points, in my experience. And so, you know, of course, if I wrote a book, the book would look a little different. You know, so everyone's going to write their own book, sort of thing.
Well, I'm looking forward to that book, Avi.
Oh, I don't think it's happening.
Oh my, Abby.
I know there's a bunch of people who would like to see that, but see, that's why I do these things. They're a little less.
We appreciate it.
You know, little, well, whatever. So no, you know, writing books is, you know, and this is the thing about Chinese, you know, medical history also, is that we're assuming that because it's in a book, it must be right. And I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think often what happened was, you know, somebody had a friend in some high place, or a mistress who had a mister in a high place, or whatever. And they got published, especially in the world. I mean, even today, it's not. Today we can self-publish, so it's a whole different game. But it's kind of like publishing is a cutthroat business, and so we're just assuming that because I mean, how do we know that the Shanhan Lun was really the effective and the best theory that was out there? How do we know that Zhang Zhongjing wasn't some the cousin of somebody? And just it was just what do you call it, uh like the mafia protects you, or nepotism or something. I'm not saying he was.
Yeah, absolutely. You
We
see that
don't
all the
know.
time.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that that was the case. I'm just saying we just don't know, and especially in a world where everything was so much more expensive to publish. I mean, they didn't have YouTube that they can go on and publish in that way. It was really expensive situation. Plus, what about all the people who may not have been literate, but were actually very good doctors? We just,
Right.
so it's like it's all influenced by who had power and who was close to the people, and whether it's the emperor or the ruler of the county or whatever it is. And that's why a lot of them are court physicians. And that's another kind of problem. Compare a court physician. I'm treating the prince and his entourage, so presumably it's the harem and whoever else, and the guests that come. I don't live there. I don't know what they do, but or who the guests are and stuff like that. Who that physician has to treat, and then you go compare that with a village doctor that doesn't know how to read or write, but treats thousands of people with extremely serious diseases. Now, of course, 2,000 years ago, the discrepancy in health wasn't quite as great as it is now. The very rich still lived in conditions that were unsanitary. They were not immune to chickenpox or whatever. But I think that there is something to be said about the doctors who were never going to write anything, probably had a lot of knowledge to offer, because they probably saw something very different than what the court physician did, which
Yeah.
we knew possibly did cosmetic acupuncture also, because 23rd mistress needs to look very good on day 22. I don't know where it's all at, but we just don't know. But if you can imagine, this is what I mean. I'll say something really politically incorrect. I mean, look at the physician that my president has. I don't think anybody would trust that guy with a medical opinion. So it's true. I mean,
No, I know it's true. That's why I'm laughing.
and let alone the one physician who got incredible amount of publication recently. The woman from Louisiana, who I don't know if she's a shaman or if she's like, she's got snakes on her tail or something. But these are the people getting published. I mean, my goodness. Now, do the math and figure out that China 1,500 years ago, 2,000 years ago, 500 years ago was controlled by people that Trump makes look like angels. I mean, that Trump becomes an angel compared to them, sorry. So, so you can imagine what might have been going on there and what the demands were. I mean, apparently Sun Miao also was being demanded by the emperor, and escaped to some mountain or near Tibet or something to be a hermit or something, because he didn't want to deal with the emperor. So medicine is always, publishing, especially in medicine, but anything is a very political act.
Yeah.
Anyway,
In fact, Jeffrey did a whole weekend on well-known points where the indications have been disproved, like GB20 does not do wind, it's really UB10, and Heart 7 does not calm the Shen, and he did a whole weekend on that.
Oh, do you have notes?
And it was I will dig them up. Yes. I'll have to figure out which which course that was. It was part of the, I think I did a 2-year acupuncture program with him.
Right.
So I think it was one of those weekends.
Mhm.
So I'll find out which one it was. But it was so hard to return back, I was still teaching then, and to return back to teaching. And it was like, I actually lost a student over it because I just stood there at one point like a deer in the headlights, and he thought I had no capacity to diagnose, and he dropped out of my class. And to
If you're
this
not
day,
going to use Heart 7, Camille, I'm not in your class.
yeah, well, because I was really like, my brain was just spinning for a moment, and he interpreted that as, she has no idea, like, why is she even teaching? She has no idea what she's doing, and he dropped out of my class. And so it's kind of funny because we've never sort of had a conversation about it as to what, where my brain was at. But no, it was really a pretty mind-blowing class to look at what was disproven later, and is still on the books and is still being taught.
Right. And, even the things that, you can say, well, what does it mean to disprove? I mean, the thing is, it might, look, okay, so we say Heart 7 does not, does calm the sham, does not calm the sham. The reality is that a huge number of people use it, and somehow they use it, successfully. It's just like, how many people, all they ever do is large intestine 4, liver 3, with an addition of 1 or 2 points every so often, just for the, for some variation. And yet the patients get better, so there's something else going on besides the so-called function of the point. Technique is a very limited phenomenon.
Yeah.
So it's used, so you can say technically this, I mean, people would come to Miriam and say, this point doesn't work. And then Miriam would say, oh yeah, it's because your needles are too short. So, no,
oh
because
my God. And Miriam was so aggressive.
Yes.
Oh my God. She left me with black and blue marks all over my neck one time. It looked
That's
like
all.
I had been choked, and it was like 100 degrees out. So I couldn't even wear a turtleneck or a scarf or anything.
Well, you're supposed to wear it with pride. It's got like show the whole world how you're a Chinese medicine warrior.
Well, I had a seminar that weekend, but it was a Western medicine seminar. It wasn't like a bunch of acupuncturists where I could say, oh, Miriam Lee, and everybody would have understood. And it was really weird. I mean, I looked like I like somebody had tried to strangle me.
So you should have gone and said, oh yeah, can we talk about survival complex?
And it was just because I happened to make an offhand comment that I thought I thought I was coming down with something. Like, it was just like this little nothing, like, and I just happened to mention it, and she just started gua shaing the heck out of my neck.
Okay, well, now we're talking insurance.
Oh my God, it was an unbelievable experience. So yeah, when
Miriam
you
was a
mentioned Miriam
strong
Lee
lady.
and her very, putting in 2-inch needles into your ankle and then saying, oh, now go walk around.
No, she was quite a character.
Quite a
And
character.
she was convinced that what she was doing was that, when a patient wouldn't come back, she counted them as a success story, because if they still had the problem, they would have come back. And I'm like, Miriam, maybe the needles were too strong for them. Maybe they didn't like it. That she could not comprehend. It was just like, it's. I don't know if she pretended or if it was for real.
Yeah.
But it was very, she was very convinced of what she was doing. And it's the thing that's more important. Your conviction is sometimes a lot more important than what you're actually doing technically. That somebody else can supposedly do the exact same thing and they won't get the same results. It's something about how you're interacting with a client as you're putting the needle in that sometimes takes over everything else. Nothing else is important. So then a person like that can write any book they want. And you can have all sorts of weird indications that nobody else is ever going to produce. And then you have points, by the way, talking about, you have a whole bunch of points that you go, no one's ever used it. No one knows why it's there. Nobody knows why there's a point there to begin with. What the hell's going on? Did they just need to fill up the book? You know, I mean, no. So I have a great example. I think it's Sanjiao 13. Qingling Yuan. Something like that. It's like beautiful name. No, I think it's 12 because it's not further up. The further up ones do scrofularias. At least they have indications. But you know, it's like this beautiful name, the pure clear stream. You know, it's like you go, my God, this has to have some major spiritual capacity or something, you know, with a name like this. And it's like nothing, you know, and like, you know, like you don't even understand why there's a point there. You know, it's like
Join the dots, Evie.
Sorry?
To join the dots.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's like we didn't have enough. Well, you know, but then from stomach 40 down to stomach 41, they felt comfortable enough to take half the leg and not put anything there. You know, I mean, and then on the Samjiao, they needed, you know, they needed something. So it's just interesting. Or then you have, well, large intestine. I think that's large intestine 13. The one, the five army mile. You know, that's you're not supposed to needle. So it's one thing about, you know, stomach 17, where, you know, you understand you can't needle, you know, you shouldn't needle it because it's in the nipple. But this one, you don't understand why. And then you go, well, if you're not supposed to do anything with it, then why is it there? You know, like, did they have, you know, Jeffrey used to say that the channels have a certain number, or originally had a certain number of points that were represented some sort of oracles or astrological capacities. I don't know, you know, something like that. So, you know, the heart channel has 9 points because that's a very young number. So it's an elementary number. So the heart had to have 9 points. So I don't know if that applies to all the channels, or, you know, it's just really interesting to look at these things. So, but anyway, back to our time and our problems. Do we have any?
Mary Jo, anything else?
Back pain, Evie, that travels to the hip. Would you kind of suspect sciatica for something like that, or not?
Possibly, but well, so okay, the hip is a very nebulous area because it's quite large. The hip has a back, a side, and a front, and inside, you know, like, so where in the hip does it travel to?
Well, I actually haven't. I've just been in conversation with this
Oh,
person,
okay.
so I haven't really.
Okay. So most people's hip would tend to mean to them the trochanter. That they would kind of, you know, because if it's an inguinal, it's hip, but it's, you know, they'll find another word for it. If it's in the back, they'll say the butt. You know, that's generally what. So so if it's like the common perception of hip, there's a chance that it's L3. Okay, because L3 is related to the hip. Okay, now that's not always true, but you know, that's a good possibility. So besides resolving everything at the end, when I turn them over, I would needle L3. Okay, but it could be a whole other, you know, so for example, somebody can have a tight piriformis that's going to produce back pain as opposed to the other way around. It's quite possible, you know. So your main thing is really resolving the piriformis. But the other thing is that for all of these, one of the things to consider is kidney 16. Kidney 16 tends to do a good job for back pain that goes towards the buttocks. Okay. But whether that will be sciatica or not, again, you know, true sciatica, if you're talking about a true sciatic nerve, should go in the back. Most people that say they have sciatica show you the gallbladder channel, possibly the stomach channel. You know, like true sciatica is a lot rarer. It's not as common as how often we use the term. You know, true sciatica is supposed to come from L5. You know, in which case you're talking about sacroiliac, you know, release the sacroiliac ligaments, do spleen 9, etc. So, and the other thing is with these things, sometimes the joint points of either gallbladder or bladder, the ones under the foot, under the shoestring points of those can work pretty well for that kind of back pain.
And if there's pressure pain on gallbladder 30, what
Okay,
release
so
is that? Yeah.
okay, so on the front, I would start with kidney 16. On the back, or I could even do it from the front, and I know, but I'll do it twice because it is. I use Fukaya gallbladder 31, which is take gallbladder 31, where the middle finger meets the thigh, go back 2 fingers towards the bladder channel, and I find that better go 2 fingers higher, or a little more even, and you'll find a point that releases the piriformis. If that doesn't work, you can go the whole area from a few fingers above gallbladder 31 to a few fingers below gallbladder 31, but generally speaking, it's going to be a little bit closer to the bladder channel. You're really looking for the edge of the lateral hamstring. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because the gallbladder 31 is really on the not the tensor fasciolata, but what's that band called? The IT band. Yeah. So if you go a little more lateral, you're getting the place where you're getting actually the hamstring, the edge of the hamstring, and so you're really looking for that.
So, sorry, you're going towards the lateral, is it?
You're going backwards. You're going posteriorly.
Okay.
Because you're going from the IT band, you're going back towards the hamstring, and trying to get the way the hamstring and the IT band, that fascia that connects them. That's what you're looking for in this point, rather than the IT band itself.
Okay.
And that tends to release the other point. So remember, I told you that, you know, before, there's a point behind gallbladder 34, sort of a little bit more bladdery-ish than gallbladder. That point can release the piriformis also.
Okay.
And then sometimes, you know, by opening the back small intestine 9-10, or even UB43, can release the piriformis too. And then if it's truly just piriformis, if it's really like a muscle cramping phenomenon at gallbladder 30, possibly spleen 3 would do it. You know, spleen 3 is the point for, you know, muscle cramps.
Thank you. When you're needling gallbladder 31, Eva, do you go with the channel or do you go?
A little bit. No, again, gallbladder is always against a little bit upwards towards the buttocks. It's almost like you're directing the. I tend not to needle 90 degrees in, generally speaking. There is a sentence in the Great Compendium about, now, believe me, I don't know what it means, but it sounds good. It says that needling at 90 degrees can damage the upright chi. Okay, I have no idea what the hell that's supposed to mean. It's another one of those, you know, my mistress's cousin understands this sort of thing. So it's clearly an inside statement for the people who are engaged in a particular argument or something at the time of 1600. So I don't really, but so I've developed you know, this sort of understanding that it's always better to angle the needle slightly. So it's very rare for me to needle bang 90 degrees, even though I have no idea what it means that it damages the upright chi. So, but I've developed it. So with gallbladder 31, I would tend to, because I'm aiming at the buttocks and because gallbladder channel, we tend to go against the channel. I've just developed the style of doing it that way. But believe me, lots of people just needle it at 90 degrees and probably get good enough results. You know, I don't know that I get better results by angling it. Okay.
Great, thank you.
Right. Anything else?
Don't think I had anything, Evie.
No.
Good for me. Thank you, Avi. That
You
was very
are most
good.
welcome. Good. Well, enjoy the week, and I'll be here next Monday.
And you enjoy as well. Thank you so
I
much.
will. It's quite hot here, so I hopefully I'll survive. I'll still be breathing hopefully next week.
It wasn't too bad after the hurricane passed through?
No, it actually well, we didn't get much of the hurricane.
Oh, good.
Unfortunately,